Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Param Bhuya Pravakshyami. Jnanam Jnanamuttamam. Yajñatva Munaya Sarve. Param Siddhimito Gataha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Again I shall declare to you the supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection."
Idam jnanam upashritya mama sargamyam agataha sargepi nopajayante pralayena vitanti cha.
By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution.
Mama yornirmahad brahma tasmin garbham dadamyaham sambhava sarvabhutanam tato bhavati bharata.
The total material substance called Brahman is the source of birth, and it is that Brahman that I impregnate, making possible the births of all living beings, O son of Bharata.
Sarva yonishu konteya martaya sambhavantiya tashram brahma mahad yonir aham bija pradapitaha.
It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father.
Sattvam rajastama iti guna prakriti sambhavaha nibadhananti mahabaho dehe dehinam avyayam.
Material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living being entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes.
Tatra sattvam nirmalatvat prakashalkam anammayam sukha sangena vajnati jnana sangena chanagaha.
O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge.
Rajaragatmakam vidhi Krishna sangha samudbhavam tannibadnati kunteya karma sangena dehinam.
Hare Krishna, Yash, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. The mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings, O son of Kunti, and because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruits of actions.
Tamasa jnanajam vidhi mohanam sarvadehinam pramadalasya nidrabhis tannibadnati bharata.
O son of Bharata, know that the mode of darkness born of ignorance is a delusion of all embodied living entities. The result of this mode are madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul.
Sattvam soke sanjayati raja karmani bharata jnanam avritya tu tama pramade sanjayati uta.
O son of Bharata, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness, passion conditions one to fruits of action, and ignorance, covering one's knowledge, binds one to madness.
Rajastamascha bhuya sattvam bhavati bharata raja sattvam tamascheva tamas sattvam ajastata.
Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance. O son of Bharata, sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and at other times ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there is always competition for supremacy.
Sarvadvareshu dehesmin prakasha upajayate jnanam yada tada vidyad Vividam Sattvam Yuta.
The manifestations of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge.
Lobha Pravritir Arambha Karma Nam Ashamaspyaha Rajasyetani Jayante Vivrede Bharatashabha.
O chief of the Bharatas, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, fruitive activity, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable desire and hankering develop.
Aprakasha Pravritischa Pramado Moha Evacha Tamasyetani Jayante Vivride Kurunandana.
When there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, O son of Kuru, darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion are manifested.
Yala Satve Pravridetu Palayam Yati Dehabrit Tado Vidam Lokan Amalan Padipadyate.
When one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the pure higher planets of the great sages.
Rajasi Pralayam Gatva Karma Sangishu Jayate. Rajasi Pralayam Gatva Karma Sangishu Jayate Tatar Pralina Samasi Uddayoni Shujayate.
When one dies in the mode of passion, he takes birth among those engaged in fruitive activities. And when one dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth in the animal kingdom.
Karmana Sukriyasyasu Satvikam Nirmalam Phalam Rajasastu Phalam Dukam Agyanam Tamasa Phalam.
The result of pious action is pure and is said to be in the mode of goodness. But action done in the mode of passion results in misery, and action performed in the mode of ignorance results in foolishness.
Satvat Sanjayate Gyanam Rajaso Lobha Evacha Pramada Moho Tamaso Bhavato Gyanam Evacha.
From the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, greed develops. And from the mode of ignorance, develop foolishness, madness, and illusion.
Purvam Gachanti Satpasta Madhya Tishtanti Rajasaha Jaganya Vrittista Ado Gachanti Tamasaha.
Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the abominable world of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds.
Nanyam Gunebhyaha Kartaram Yada Dasanupashyati Gunebhyastra Param Veti Madbhavam Sodigachati.
When one properly sees that in all activities no other performer is at work than these modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature.
Gunanetan Atityatrin Dehi Deha Samudbhavan Janma Mrityu Jara Dukhe Vimukto Mritamashnate.
When the embodied being is able to transcend these modes, three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life.
Arjuna Vacha Kerlingeshtan Gunan Etan Atito Bhavati Prabhu Kim Achara Katam Chaitams Tringunan Ativartate.
Arjuna inquired, O my dear Lord, by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these three modes? What is his behavior, and how does he transcend the modes of nature?
Sri Bhagavan Vacha Prakashtam Cha Pravritim Cha Moham Eva Cha Pandava Nadvesti Sampravirtani Navirtani Kankshati Udasina Varasino Guneryo Na Vichalyate Gunavartanta Iti Evam Yo Vaishtati Lengate Samadhukasaka swasta Samalotsaspakanchanaha Tulya Priya Priyodiras Tulya Nindatma Samstuti. Maunapamanayos Tulyo Mitrari Pakshayaho Sarvaramba Parityagi Gunatita Sauchyate.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal towards the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature.
Mamchayo Vyabicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate Saganan Samatityetan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate.
One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature, and thus comes to the level of Brahman.
Brahmano hi pratishtaham amaratya yasya cha sasvatasya cha dharmasya sukhe antikasya cha.
I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness.
Om Tat Sat Iti Srimad Bhagavad-gita Upanishadishu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Gunatrayi Vibhaga Yoga Nama Chaturadasho Adhyaya. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you so much, Yash and Sridham, for that wonderful recitation of that verse. So today we will be discussing the text 7. So let's recite this text together. Rajo ragatma kam vidhi trishna sanga samudbhavam tannibadanti kanteya karma sangena dehinam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings, O son of Kunti, and because of this, the embodied living entity is born to material actions. Purport: material fruitive actions. The mode of passion is characterized by the attraction between a man and a woman. Woman has attraction for man, and a man has attraction for woman. This is called the mode of passion. And when the mode of passion is increased, one develops the hankering for material enjoyment. He wants to enjoy sense gratification. For sense gratification, and man in the mode of passion wants some honor in society or in the nation, and he wants to have a happy family with nice children, wife, and house. These are the products of the mode of passion. As long as one is hankering after these things, he has to work very hard. Therefore, it is clearly stated here that he becomes associated with the fruits of his activity and thus becomes bound by such activities. In order to please his wife, children, and society and to keep his prestige, one has to work. Therefore, the whole material world is more or less the mode of passion, in the mode of passion. Modern civilization is considered to be advanced in the standard of the mode of passion. Formerly, the advanced condition was considered to be in the mode of goodness. If there is no liberation for those in the mode of goodness, what to speak of those who are entangled in the mode of passion? Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyat Deshatarine Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. What a beautiful verse and a chapter. So the verse is, the mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings, O son of Kunti, and because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruitive actions. So it's a very instructive verse from this chapter of 14th chapter, which we are going to have a look. So because we couldn't meet yesterday, let's have a quick recap. We are discussing a very important chapter, and Krishna, right at the first verse, confirms the fact that now I'm going to tell you something which is so higher that I've not even shared this with you before. And we looked at the connection. We are now in the second section of the chapter where the modes, how the modes bind the pure soul, is being discussed in a lot of details by breaking down those modes. In particularly in the text 7, we are discussing the passion, how the one gets bound by this passion and what happens when somebody is in the grab of that mode of passion. We will move on to the third section. We will recognize the modes, how these modes have sometimes are competing with each other, and there is a supremacy between the modes. In section 4, we will learn how acting and dying within the modes and what destination one achieves when certain person dies in a particular mode. And in the final section, we will see how Krishna is giving us a formula to transcend the modes of material nature. So in a sort of a screenshot of what these three modes are, these are the three aspects of the mode and what happens of somebody who's conditioned and who's passing away in lead. Just to give a, although we will be covering more of a detail, but I thought let me just give a quick overview. So somebody who is in goodness, the symptom of that person who's conditioned by mode of goodness, the word condition is also used for goodness. Can somebody tell me why? Why? Goodness is supposed to be illuminating, happiness. Why would one then there be a word like conditioning? What's there to be conditioned in mode of goodness? Who could answer that question for me?
Hare Krishna, Dipanam.
Palika Mataji, Hare Krishna.
They become very content with that mode of goodness, and they think they don't need to do anything else. So they become maybe pride above their situation or whatever they are. So they wouldn't like to go beyond that mode of goodness. That's what I understand.
That is an absolutely perfect understanding, Palika Mataji.
Thank you.
Even for somebody who's situated in the mode of goodness, has this tendency to become very content, as the word very rightly used by Palika Mataji. They can think, I'm very comfortable here. I'm a very pious person. I am doing some piety and I'm getting the results. So they become conditioned to that nature. And what is the result of somebody who's conditioned to that nature is that that person attains pure higher planets, but not necessarily the spiritual world. They only can go up to the heavenly planets where their level of enjoyment expands to the degree that there is actually no limit there in the heavenly planets. In that realm, the enjoyment is far, far superior than what we can think. And one of the small analogy or an example, if we were to take, we can take an example of many places in Srimad Bhagavatam where Srila Prabhupada talks about. Recently, we've been reading the story of Dhruv Maharaj. And when Narad Muni was instructing Dhruv Maharaj, he said to Dhruv Maharaj that once you get to the stage of to be able to just about perfect your breathing while you're meditating on Lord Vishnu, just at that stage, you will be able to see the people who live in the Satyaloka flying in their aeroplanes. Look at that. I mean, Narad Muni is giving that benediction or telling Dhruv Maharaj, just at the stage when you're able to control your various process of Astanga Yoga and reached by just controlling your air while meditating on the Lord, you will be in a position to see those higher living entities living on Satyaloka, which is almost at same level as Lord Brahma's planet, you will be able to see those personalities flying in the plane. So that doesn't mean those personalities who are flying in this beautiful plane, uh, my point is that's the kind of happiness or the sense enjoyment you can get. You can have beautiful apsaras, you can have best of the best dances and have very opulent food, but still it's a nature, or it is the state of conditioning. Because what do we hear from Krishna in Bhagavad Gita? We hear from him that Abrahma Bhuvanal Loka Punaravartino Arjuna, that mam upetya tu konteya na punarjanma na vidyate, that from the smallest planet down to the highest planet, which is the Brahmaloka, all the places are of places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But if somebody is able to worship the Lord, the result of that worship, or understand his pastimes or his nature or his appearance, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti taktava deham punarjanma neti mameti, so Arjuna. That such a person who understands the appearance and the transcendental activities and the glories of the Lord, that person doesn't come back to this world. So even mode of goodness is eliminating. Very important point to remember. And then somebody who's in mode of passion, he has unlimited desires and fruitive actions. We will discuss that more in detail. And somebody who's in ignorance, his madness, and it's a state of madness and a state of laziness and sleep. And then as far as the passing aways goes, we have already discussed such a person in mode of goodness goes to higher planets. Somebody who's in mode of passion, passion means somebody who's worshipping the Devi Devatas to fulfill their intense desires. So they will can still stay in the earthly planets because they're still in some form or other they've accepted as superior authority. So they could get a possible chance of still being on the earthly planets. And for somebody who's in madness and sleep, unfortunately, that person will be given hellish planet or animal kingdom. And what does it lead to? Goodness leads to knowledge, passion leads to greed, and ignorance leads to foolishness and illusion. So the theme of these three verses is the effects or the binding force of each of the mode upon the conditioned souls. What happens to somebody who's influenced sometimes with more of passion, more or sometimes more of goodness, or sometimes more of ignorance. So in this particular text, which was covered by Mukunda Hari Prabhu day before yesterday, he very nicely explained that there are three types of conditioned living entities, which are happy, active, and helpless. And the representative type of goodness is somebody who's a Brahman, who's illuminated, who's into knowledge, who's into teaching profession. And the best example are philosophers, poets, scientists, teachers, gardeners. All these professions, they fall under the category of mode of goodness. And what is this mode involved? It includes that somebody could become proud of their knowledge. There could be a sense of advancement and happiness, which binds them and keeps them in repeated birth and death, as we discussed. He feels a sort of material happiness, and because of that improved living, he becomes very conditioned to that state. And what causes the sense of happiness? Because one is more or less free from sinful reaction. You see, at that stage, because you're doing so many pious activity, there's no guarantee that all your sinful reactions are eradicated. Even they can, because you can counteract the sinful reaction with your pious activity. But Srila Rupa Goswami gives us this advice, and so does this advice is given to who? Yes. While Sukdev Goswami is speaking to Parikshit Maharaj in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, no, sorry, 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where he is relaying the pastime of Ajamil, when Parikshit Maharaj is concerned after hearing the description at the end of the 5th canto about the hellish planets, and he's really, not for him, but he has so much of compassion, and he's asking the question, how does one atone for and avoid going to hellish planets? And Sukdev Goswami begins to explain some process. He said you could do pious activities, you could do this, but Parikshit Maharaj is not happy. He's like, it's like bathing of an elephant, going in, taking bath, coming out, and spreading the whole, dirt again back on him. I don't get it. My spiritual master, my dear Guru Maharaj, please explain me, give me more clarity. That doesn't make sense to me. And Prabhupada writes in one of the purports that that was a test of Sukdev Goswami towards Parikshit Maharaj to see if he is really going to come to the essence. And he asks for the essence, and then Sukdev Goswami gives him the essence. He says the essence is, there is no point in atoning like that. The only atonement can be done by taking to the process of devotional service, because even though we perform pious activities to eradicate our sinful activities, but the tendency or the propensity to sin again still stays in the heart, because that's very, very deep rooted. But even that deep rooted intensity, or the deep rooted propensity, which is very intense, can only be eradicated by the process of devotional service. That's why devotional service is called Mahadvagni by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Cheto Darpanam Marjanam. Cheto Darpanam Marjanam. Oh, how can I forget? I'm forgetting Shashtakam. Can somebody help me here? Cheto Darpanam Marjanam.
Babu
Bahav Mahadvagani Nirvapanam. Sherva Kairva Chandrika Vitravadu Vidyanam. Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam. Pratipadam Purnamitasvadanam. So, Cheto Darpanam Marjanam, Baha Mahadvagani Nirvapanam. This material energy is like burning us in this wide forest of fire of the material world. And the only way to keep it or completely eradicate is by taking the process of the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. That's when it can really work. So, in that sense, it becomes very crystal clear that we can do pious activity and try to eradicate another sinful activity. Like, okay, I do this. I like Prabhupada gives this example. Sometimes people in the Western world, they perform so many sins on Monday to Saturday, and on Sunday they go back to the church, atone, beg for forgiveness, and pray to Jesus Christ that please forgive us for all the sins. And on Monday they again start sinning. That is not very helpful at all, actually. So in this particular text, we will be discussing how the men in the mode of goodness, they worship the demigods. This is the destination. The mode in the passion, they worship demons. And those in the mode of ignorance, they worship ghosts. This is a reference which will come more clearly from 17.4. But in this particular text, where the passion is being discussed, it's mentioned that passion binds by the ropes of desire and attachment. These two words are very, very significant in this particular text, because what is the characteristic of somebody who's in mode of passion? His attraction, there is an attraction between men and women. That's the biggest symptom of us while we are in mode of passion, that there is a strong sense of attraction towards the opposite sex. And sometimes, unfortunately, to say in this world, for the same sex, because the way Kali Yuga is progressing in this world today. And Prabhupada says the advancement of the modern civilization is considered in the mode of passion, which was formerly advanced condition, was considered to be in the mode of goodness. When they were farmers engaged in farming and doing all the varnashram dharma properly, engaged according to our psychophysical nature, that is still one can rise to the level of mode of goodness. But right now, the way, especially where we are, London, New York, Delhi, Mumbai, if you see, right now you can still feel some sattva on the day of Boxing Day. Otherwise, you can imagine what happens on the Boxing Day. The newspaper of 27th December morning, when you get up tomorrow morning, a newspaper is normally, the front page shows you the long queues of the people standing outside Debenhams, Argos, Currys, Marks and Spencers, you call it, you name it, trying to buy happiness. They think by standing at 4 o'clock in the morning, they can get in there and get the best deal. Of course, there may be a best deal, but the people are not stupid, who are trying to sell us stuff. They're very smart. These things are done to attract our mind, and we are driven because of that. Oh, let me get onto Amazon and let me see what's happening. I'm not saying I don't do it, but the point is, there is so much of sense to achieve something. We are always wanting to desire something, and that's why hankering for material enjoyment and sense gratification. We want honor in society. We want honor in, we want to be somebody. We want to have position. A person in the mode of passion wants to be happy with his family, with his house and children, and he thinks me and mine. These children are meant, when they speak softly, oh, that's so beautiful. Oh, I'm so attached to my son. He speaks so softly, and oh, he's my son. Of course, mother says I gave birth to him. Father says, how can you give birth without me? I'm the doer. I'm the one who gave the a so-called seed in that sense. And so like that, we become so puffed up without realizing that we are nothing but just a puppet in the hand of the material energy, which is causing us to act in a certain way. And these modes come upon us because of a certain karma or desires which we had, on which we have acted previously and we are currently acting in this life. And to construct a residence for sense gratification, that's another symptom. One works hard for a palatable house as if it is eternal, thinking that I'm going to be here forever actually. And thus bound by the fruits of work, what happens to such a person? There is no chance of liberation. Shrama eva hi kevalam. Na utpadet gati ratim. Shrama eva hi kevalam. Srimad Bhagavatam says that in the course of trying to perform our daily activities or our regulated dharma, or performing even our varna ashram, we carry on doing our activities. But while we are doing so, if we do not invoke the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or engage in uh, the the devotional service, then while we carry on doing this activity, if we do not engage in devotional service, all those activities are unfortunately shama evahi kevalam, that all of that is a waste of time. So it is such an important and fundamental part of our life for us to tune in to the transcendental vibration of Srimad Bhagavad-gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, take association of the devotees, and share Krishna consciousness. Because you see, why the acharyas have emphasized so much on sharing. The reason is, when you're sharing, Prabhupada calls it's a kirtan. When you're distributing books, he says this is a higher kirtan, because you're trying to convince other to tell them something which you're already convinced about. So you're already doing glorifying the Lord while you're convincing other people to take to Krishna consciousness. That's why this process, one may ask, Divya, why is it so purifying when somebody says, I'm not interested, or when somebody says, I'm interested? Either way, it's purifying. And the answer is, as I just very precisely shared, because you are without any ulterior motive. You're not trying to take that money and use it for your sense gratification. You're going to use that money to print more books, to give it back to Radha Gokulananda, to do it, use for our spiritual activities. So in that sense, it's a very illuminating experience. It's a very, very purifying experience, actually. That's why one experience bliss. You see the stories of Guru Shakti Mataji, which was shared, the stories of Sutapa Prabhu, who had a first-hand encounter, who were out on the streets. You can see that what kind of experiences these devotees, and all of you had to some degree or other, actually. So these were some points from this verse. And I thought, let's take an example of intensity, quantity, and frequency of somebody who's in mode of passion, and what happens to such a person. So mode of passion is characterized, more details will be covered in the text 12, but I thought let's take an example from text 12. It is characterized by insatiable worldly desire, which blinds us to the consequences, not even knowing what we are doing, not even be able, in mode of passion. You see, in Sattva Gun, one has illumination, one has clarity of what is it that he should be doing and what is it that he shouldn't be doing. So in such clarity, when somebody is able to act, then he's acting for his own benefit, and sometimes even for the benefit of the soul, actually, and not just the body, because in the state of illumination, one may come to Krishna consciousness. But when somebody is impelled by the mode of passion or intense desire to do something, achieve something, because there is no illumination, one doesn't even think the consequence of what he or she is trying to do. And that's why such indulgence causes the desires to grow gradually, and they further intensify and become very frequent in our life. So let's see how we can understand this. The principle of intensity can be experienced that every time when you or somebody drinks alcohol, thereafter the desire to drink, it tempts them more and more, and it becomes so strong that they can't resist. They really need to have. And over a time, what happens? That the force becomes so intense or so strong that they may even lie, they may even cheat just to get a drink, right? I mean, drinking is one example, but all of you can think, I can actually think of in my life. Let's say, for example, I'm still fond of sweets, and I was fond of sweets before in my childhood, that my mother would make some nice sweets at home, and she will, because she knew me, she would put it in two different jars. One will be in front of me and one will be behind. And over a period of time, I could figure that out. She She makes, because I could see she's making plenty, but then I see the jar. I said, there's only 8 laddus in this. Where are the others gone? And then I start looking for the other jar, even though the first jar still has a couple of laddus, thinking that my mother will still be happy knowing there is more laddus and he's not eating much, you see. So because of that greed I had, I would go into the looking for the other jar and look for those laddus and eat them, you know. Look at the kind of thief mentality I had. Even now, in some cases, I'm the most wretched person from that point of view. But the point is that that's how our desire to do something or achieve something or get something becomes so strong that we are so impelled with it. And then in terms of the quantity, the more they drink, the more they want to drink, right? The more you hear Srimad Bhagavatam, the more you want to hear, because it is rasam alyam. It is the nectar which is coming from the lotus mouth of Sukadeva Goswami, and it has become even more nectarian because it's coming from the mouth of pure devotee, Sukadeva Goswami. Similarly, if you take to the bad habits, you want to do it more and more. Initially, you may just take a little sip but over a time, they may feel like they want to have dozens of it and they want to have lots of glasses. That's the level of quantity one gets into when they get into bad habit. And the more they drink, the more often they feel like drinking. Initially, they may drink weekly or monthly, but over at a time, it becomes a craving. That's why you see the culture of pub, drinking alcohol here is not very nice. It's not at all very nice. So this is just an example I wanted to share with you, that how the mode of passion is so dangerous and how we need to rise ourselves to the level of mode of goodness. And that's why this chapter is such a critical chapter. I humbly beg you, request you to stay tuned to this chapter as much as possible and go through every verse with such detail with the devotees who are sharing with, Vrindavan Chand Prabhu, Mukunda Hari Prabhu, and Madhukumari Mataji, and many others, Divya Gaurangi Mataji. So please stay tuned, because this is a very, very important chapter. And a lot of time, it takes a while for devotees to come to the level of goodness, what to speak of transcend those modes actually. And we think sometimes, oh, I'm chanting Sola Mala, yaar, Of course, Prabhupada used to say, after you chant your 16 rounds, you can put the beat back and say, I can do any goddamn thing. But Prabhupada meant in a spiritual spirit, in doing many things. And Prabhupada is a pure devotee. But we put our beat back and think, I can do any goddamn thing. I can watch a movie. I can do what I like. I've chanted my 16 rounds. But what we don't realize, what we do after our chanting affects our chanting following morning. You see, there is a direct relationship between that. So we need to cultivate mode of sattva gun, and we will hear more about that later in the other chapters. What's the time? Oh, we have 5 minutes, because I have 2 more slides I wanted to go through it with you all. So how can we prevent such alarming aggravation of desire? It is explained that by its regulation and redirection. So above the mode of passion is the mode of goodness, which illuminates us with the knowledge of our spiritual identity. So because we know passion is in the middle, and then there is goodness and there is pure goodness, so we have a hope. We need to find out how, in order to rise above the mode of passion, I need to find out what are the symptoms of somebody who's in mode of goodness. And this knowledge will inspire me to regulate my daily worldly indulgences by seeking spiritual happiness. Are you able to follow me so far? What I'm trying to present here, the way to come out of mode of passion is to develop some form of interest in coming or rising ourselves into and understanding the benefits and advantage of what it is like to be in mode of goodness. That's how we can leave passion and come to goodness. And above the mode of goodness is transcendence, which means a complete spiritual platform. Brahma Bhuta Prasan Atma Na Sochati Na Kankshati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhakti Labhate Param. That at this stage, this is the stage where the pure devotional service can actually begin. That means you have transcended all the 3 modes. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhakti labhate param. That at this stage you can perform your bhakti and it can be uninterrupted and unmotivated, because you've given the tendency to be attached to any of these 3 modes. And then what happens? Here we realize that we are eternal parts of the all-attractive Supreme Krishna and are meant to relish lasting spiritual love for him. when we redirect our desires from the world to him by practicing bhakti yoga, we access higher devotional taste that makes our lower desires more resistible and less appealing, till we become oblivious to them, being ecstatically absorbed in Krishna. You see, this is exactly what happens when we get attached to this idea of wanting to serve the Lord and being able to engage in the service of the Lord. And at the end, I now want to take you on a little journey of what Srimad Bhagavatam has. The similar concept or the idea which I just shared with you, Srimad Bhagavatam now clears it, the same perspective. And let's see what that perspective of Srimad Bhagavatam is. So in the 11th canto, 25th chapter, I put it the other way around so it makes sense. When the mode of ignorance conquers passion and goodness, it covers one's consciousness and makes one foolish and dull. Please try to hear what is happening here. When the mode of ignorance, which is tamogun, conquers passion and goodness, it covers one's consciousness and makes one foolish and dull. This is somebody falling in ignorance. Yeah. Falling into lamentation and illusion, a person in the mode of ignorance sleeps excessively, indulges in false hopes, and displays violence towards others. See, very, very clear. Yeah. And now let's look at passion. When the mode of passion, which causes attachment, separatism, and activity, conquers ignorance and goodness, a man begins work hard to acquire prestige and fortune. Thus, in the mode of passion, he experiences anxiety and struggle. You see, such a illuminating, clear, precise formula or a gradual process of telling us that how dangerous these modes are. And when the mode of goodness, which is luminous, pure, and auspicious, predominates over passion and ignorance, a man becomes endowed with happiness, virtue, knowledge, and other good qualities. You see, a clear, gradual upward progression. What happens to somebody who's at ignorance? We saw that. What happens to somebody who's in potion and why and how he gets influenced by the other two modes? And finally, when somebody is in the mode of goodness, which is luminous, pure, and auspicious, it predominates over passion and ignorance. A man becomes endowed with happiness, virtue, knowledge, and other good qualities. And from there is some hope for us to rise to pure goodness. So that was the end of my presentation from today's verse. Very, very important verse. And I'd like to hear from you all. If there was anything which you found helpful in it's not a very nice topic, but I think it's good to know that at least when I was reading that verse and trying to reflect on my life, I felt how much driven I am in mode of passion, how much desires I still have, I want to fulfill, how much I want to achieve, but I need to really realign those desires and make them spiritual and work for Krishna and use that passion I have, material passion, somehow in the energy of Krishna, and then it can become somehow or other transcendental actually. So let's hear from all of you. What is it that you have to say about this particular illuminating verse? What stuck with you, or if you have any questions or comments in this relation?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Sandeep Prabhu.
Please accept my humble obeisances.
Please accept mine, Prabhu.
And thanks for your efforts for Sankirtan movement. I wish someday I can do 1% of that. The realization is directly linked to that. These texts were written about 5,000 years back, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
And they are still so relevant in present day London. So that realization came to me that truth never changes. Lie changes. I'm Sandeep today will change in 80 years. But truth remains same through thousands of years. And this Sankirtan movement and this book, you are propagating truth. That's all I wanted to say, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu, it's a privilege to be able to have some understanding about what the truth. And you made a very good point. You see, Sutapa Prabhu talked about it in one of his lectures that the authenticity of a lecture or the potency of a Vedic literature is to see that one of the 4 points he made was that how relevant it is. It is even relevant today. It was relevant yesterday, and it will be relevant tomorrow. Actually, that's why when you're handing a Bhagavad-gita to somebody or placing it in a prison or in a hospital or a care home, it has an eternal effect. Sometimes we may think, okay, now, 10, 15, 20, 25, whatever numbers, I'm still counting the numbers, by the way. I'm sure all of you must be thinking, what is Divya I'm doing whole day? He must be sleeping after marathon today. I'm still going through the numbers and hoping tomorrow we'll be able to conclude our marathon. But the idea is that, yeah, these books are so relevant, and we may think, okay, we have put thousands or 10,000 have gone in the prisons and all these places. We do not know. Like, we heard so many stories, so many people have come from prison. That encounter of Guru Shakti Mataji with somebody who had read a Gita in the prison is just phenomenal. So that one story is enough to give us a hope that this transcendental book distribution activity of Srila Prabhupada is the most glorious activity in the International Society of Krishna Consciousness movement, and it is the most pleasing activities by far. As Sutapa Prabhu said, I'm not sharing in it. I'm a kid on the block in front of my seniors like Sutapa Prabhu, my spiritual master, who's been studying, reading, living, and distributing Prabhupada books for 43, 44 years now. I'm nobody in front of them, but even in my limited experience of going out and doing this service, the joy you will experience, all services are nice. I'm not trying to put any service down, but I can share with my experience, and so many of you will agree that you will not get the same joy in this service compared to any other service. That's the beauty of this service, Prabhu. So thank you for sharing, Sandeep Prabhu. Thank you for that. And just on that point, I wanted to mention with all of you, please stay tuned. The Live to Give campaign for UK is ending on 31st of December. So although the effect is still there, the donation, some of the links I could see, people are still making donations today, which is really nice. But our marathon of UK, which is a national marathon for 24, 25 days, ended yesterday with Gita Jayanti very nicely. But the Bhagavad-gita count will carry on till 31st of December. That's why we have a wonderful lecture tomorrow by Giriraj Maharaj, Lokanath Maharaj, Bhima Prabhu, and His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu will be giving us their association at 2:30 tomorrow. I've shared it on the Sankirtan Forever group. Do tune in. It's just nice to hear the senior devotees and their conviction in Bhagavad Gita and their stories, as it would really uplift us. We may not be doing or reaching out. If you feel inspired, feel free to do so. You can till 31st. But at this time, I want to begin placing these books and planning a celebration, a festival, which you're going to hold online, hopefully within a week, 10 days time. Invite all of you and hear from as many of you as possible of what was your experience in engaging in this marathon. We normally have two festivals, even at the manor, but they'll be both virtual. The first is the UK wide, where all the temples come together, and you will be more than welcome to log into that. But we will have a specific one for our manor congregation, which we will probably have it in the first weekend of after the first or second weekend of January. I'll confirm the details to all of you actually. So, and we will be begin packing a lot of books to give out to people in New Year. We will be packing books to send it out to places. So there's a lot coming for us to get involved in this beautiful and stay connected throughout the year with Prabhupada books. And then we will start again our course next year after, I want to have a session with all of you and take all of your ideas and have a nice mission and vision for 2021, because I feel that all of us reading Bhagavad Gita together have become a really good team. And these 45, 50 devotees in chat are going to lead the way for whole of England and Europe. I can just feel that. So we need to come together and plan our next year and how we're going to make it even more powerful and more, consistent and more relishable for everybody, like how it has been. So any other comments from anybody or questions, please?
Prabhuji?
Yes, Puja Mataji.
Hare Krishna. The mode of patient, I think you need, in my opinion, that you need something like that, especially when you are a student or you're in a university. In order to succeed, you need to have this sort of a drive to do something more and more. And then perhaps once you're settled down, then mode of goodness, then you can go back into the world that you were originally meant to be. But I think at early stages, you do need some mode of patience to succeed.
Okay, that's a very nice point. Thank you for sharing that, Puja Mataji. So I think what you are referring, there are two things here, Mataji. One is the enthusiasm and second is passion. Yes, we need to be very enthusiastic in our endeavors when we are trying to work in an ashram. Like a brahmachari needs to be very enthusiastic about serving his spiritual master and gaining that knowledge in the first 25 years if we are following the Varna ashram. And then in the next 25 years, a grahastha should take a full responsibility on serving the other three ashrams, because all the other three ashrams, namely Brahmachari ashram, sannyas, and Manapras, they are depending on the grahasthas to fund them, to look after them, to serve them, to invite them for prasadam, to invite them for association. So, so in that sense, yes. But but in the conversation, it is a very nice thing, and I'm so glad you asked that question. Just today, I was hearing this beautiful katha I've been hearing now on the 5th volume of Dhruv Maharaj pastime, because I discuss it with my son Sridham and Sachi and my wife every day. This is our Christmas marathon vrat we have taken, that every day we come together for 45 minutes. We read at least 10 to 15 shlokas from Dhruv Maharaj's story, and then I'm supposed to read the purport before and share it with my family. So what I do is, so in that story I heard, when Dhruv Maharaj, who was 5 year old, was going towards the forest on the instruction of his mother, Narad Muni appeared, and Narad Muni said, "Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, where are you going? What are you doing? You're a 5 year old boy. What has got fame, defame, honor, dishonor? What has it got to do with you? Take it lightly, buddy. Go home. This is your age to play." And if kya hua, like Maharaj is so sweetly, he says, what if your dad said, "Don't sit on my lap"? Go back and ask. This time he will make you sit on the lap. Such beautifully Maharaj was explaining. And then Dhruv Maharaj said, "Sir, I very much respect your position. I know you traverse the whole planet, you enlighten everybody, but I'm not up for listening to your instruction. If you can help me to get a kingdom which is higher than not my father, not even my grandfather, which is Manu, Swayambhuva Manu, but even higher than my great-grandfather, which is Lord Brahma. Only then please instruct me. Otherwise, please, if you don't mind moving to the side, I'm quite determined to go to the forest and do what I'm going to do. But now that we have met by providence, if you so desire, Narad Muni, kindly instruct me how I can attain this kingdom." Then Maharaj was revealing on the commentaries of the Acharya. He made such a beautiful point. He said, Narad Muni was testing the determination of Dhruv Maharaj. I'll come to your point, Puja Matati. He was telling Dhruv Maharaj that, "My dear boy, what you're so young." And Maharaj said, most people, unfortunately, and he gave the example in India, he said, people become worried when their children take to Krishna consciousness. They come and complain to Swamiji, Srila Prabhupada, and other spiritual master, "You're brainwashing my children." And one time this happened. One Prabhupada's disciple was there. His father came and he said, "My son is 24-year-old. What are you doing? You brainwashed him, and and he can be out achieving so much activities, doing so much of stuff. What have you done with him?" So Prabhupada, very humbly, and how he is, Prabhupada said, "Okay, please, you can take your son, but please stay back. Or you ask your son." The son said, "I'm very happy here." So he said, "Sir, you can stay back and take your son." And the father was gone before we know it. So Maharaj was saying that when you think that you will be able to achieve much more in spiritual life in the later years, what can you achieve when you can hardly barely see from your eyes? Which Tirtha or Mayapur or Vrindavan temple or Jagannath Puri temple or Radha Gokulanand temple can you walk or drive when your legs are hurting and your knees are in so much of pain that you're not able to get up actually? So our senses senses can still be strong, but our bodily limbs do not support the strong senses which they want to achieve and do so many things, Mataji. So our acharyas advise us that our energy should really be channeled towards serving Krishna, because by doing so, our career, Mataji, our job, our money, all of these things, we have come with a certain destiny in our hand. And that is whether, of course, one has to do some effort. Karmine, we hear that word, we have to work, but that work has to be done in the spirit of devotion, because Krishna will protect us, Mataji. So the real enthusiasm and the passion has to be in the service of the Lord. So that's my understanding. I hope that makes sense. And I thought that Dhruv Maharaj pastime of what Radha Govind Maharaj was trying to tell me this morning was very, very instructive from this point. And it almost brought goosebumps in me. And I thought this is such a good point, that I have wasted so many years of my childhood, because I am what I am. I may have job, I may not have job today. Somebody may have something, may not have something tomorrow. But if I have some amount of Krishna consciousness in my life and some amount of desire to serve the Lord, that's my biggest asset in life. And then you see Krishna will do everything to look after. And that's what Maharaj said. He said such a sweet thing. He said, Hindi mein Maharaj ne bola, and he was saying, because Dhruv Maharaj dedicated, he was so determined. Look at this, the demigods are going saying we can't breathe, we are choking, because in the 6th month Dhruv Maharaj had controlled his breathing so much that the Lord who was in his heart, he was experiencing, because of that breathing, he had controlled the whole breathing of the entire universe. And the devatas went to the Vishnu on the ocean Garbha, and they're saying, oh, we are choking, please help us, look at Dhruv Maharaj. And the Lord says, please don't worry, it's my devotee Dhruva, I'm going to go and see him in a minute. He could have said, okay, Lord Shiva, Brahmaji, you have come here, please go and pacify him so that he can stop and he can have it. No, the Lord personally went, Mataji. He personally said, you go back and do your work. I've got some work to do. He called Garuda and he went straight to Madhuban forest. And as Dhruv Maharaj was meditating, his eyes opened and Lord Vishnu was situated right in front of him in that same very beautiful form which Dhruv Maharaj was seeing, the four-armed form in his heart actually. You see, that's why Krishna says, what is that verse? Uh, um, I carry what you lack and I preserve what you have. Can somebody help me, please? Any Pandits here?
Yogakshemam Vahamyam.
Yogakshemam Vahamyaham. Yeah. Who knows the full verse? Can somebody recite the full verse for me? Rupa Mataji, you have come on the screen.
I've forgotten.
Okay, no problem. So the point I was trying to make is the Lord carries, he carries what we have and he gives us what we lack, or it's the other way around. So my point is, Puja Mataji, that yes, it's important to be very enthusiastic. We have to work, we have to effort, but there is a certain quota which has been allotted to us. But if we put our enthusiasm and our energy in channeling and serving the Lord, Krishna will protect us. There is no doubt about it. And the example of Dhruv Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Narad Muni, Yudhishthir Maharaj, Parikshit Maharaj, the Pandavas, the Queen Kunti, the you name it. All these are wonderful examples in front of us actually. Srila Prabhupada, conquered the world. He wanted to conquer Europe, as I was sharing in the global evening event yesterday. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to sleep with a London map under his pillow. He had such a desire that one day he wanted to conquer London. And his dear disciple, founder Acharya A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, he fulfilled that desire of his spiritual master, going to bed with the map of London under his pillow. He conquered through Shyam Sundar Prabhu, to Guru Das Prabhu, to Malti Mataji, all these devotees. Prabhupada fully conquered London. The holy name is there in every corner of London. At least, if not, it's expanding. It will be there. Mahaprabhu has already predicted. Nothing can stop this actually. So this goes to show us the Lord will make it happen and he will completely protect us. I hope that answers your question, Puja Mataji. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer to your question.
That's fine. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Any last comments or questions or any reflections you may have on the chat button you may want to share?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Rupa Mataji.
Wonderful class, as usual. Very nice.
Thank you, Mataji.
I was just thinking of the verse, in mode of passion, there is unlimited desire. I think somewhere it says unlimited desire, Asha
Correct.
Pash. I think it is in the demonic and divine nature. I'm confused.
Yes, Mataji.
Mode of passion is like unlimited desire and hankering, and because of that is unlimited anxiety and disturbance as well. So just the opposite when the bhakti yoga, when you do bhakti yoga, savai pumsa parodharma yator bhakti, the last word is yayatma suprasiddhati. So it's just the opposite, like to completely satisfy the self, you have to do bhakti yoga. And
Correct.
The opposite is the mode of passion, where there is unlimited hankering and desire and there is no satisfaction. So nobody can ever satisfy the senses. They are
Absolutely.
unsatiable.
Absolutely.
So that's what I was thinking.
No, that's a very, very nice point. Thank you for sharing that, Mataji. And that's why for us, we are performing and practicing bhakti. Regulated life is a very good life. You have to have certain recreation. That's why in the Grahastha ashram, there is an allowance of having a certain regulated lifestyle actually. But one has to be very conscious of his activities, of her activities, and tread this path very, very carefully. The more you are in association of the devotees, you will be safe. That's the The story of Bharat Maharaj is a great example from Srimad Bhagavatam. It's I just can't begin to thank my fortune that we have these books of Srila Prabhupada. They are our life and soul and the savior, like how Sandeep Prabhu was saying. They are so relevant today when you read them. They are so relevant today, actually. So now yes, Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Jolly Mataji.
Prabhuji, our book distribution score, how do we give it?
So Krishna Vanya Mataji, anybody who has sponsored the score already by doing Shastra Dan, by paying on the link, then it will automatically be counted for. You don't have to. I'll be sending those scores to the our score team who are recording the scores. So that is all taken care of. But if you had somebody who paid in cash or directly paid into the bank account, then please email me those scores on this email address. I'm just sharing it with you all here.
What about the separate books? The books you have given out, that score?
Which book?
Score?
Which books? The one which we did as a drop off?
Oh no, like I had some spare books and I was giving out. So can we give that score as well?
So you can give those scores. You can just email it to me, Mataji, on this email address. Tomorrow I'll be compiling all the scores, so you can do that.
Okay, so tomorrow you're doing that, yes?
Yeah. So just send me the scores, Mataji, and I'll include it in them on my email address.
Okay, Prabhu.
Thank you, Krishnavani Mataji, for your contribution, and thank you to everybody for such a wonderful event. I'm praying to Srila Prabhupada. Please pray with me as well that we not only meet, we smash our goal. We had a very successful Gita Jayanti. So just with the vibration of Bhagavad-gita, I'm sure many people came forward and also donated there. So we are working through it. It does look very optimistic, but let's see how we did. We'll find out in next couple of days. I'll share the scores with all of you. I'm sure you're all anxious and excited, and I'm very, very grateful.
We're not asking any more people for the books here or sponsoring.
No, you can, Mataji, up until 31st for Bhagavad Gita, you can. If you have somebody who's in your contact, feel free to ask. Jolly Mataji had a question you wanted to ask. Jolly Mataji, sorry, you go ahead.
Well, I was just wanting to comment on the passion, and I think it's similar to desire, really. It's how you channel it into your life. And really, it's about rewriting your own script, how you can develop in a different way as you desire, really, because you can use desire as a good thing and also as not a good thing, same as passion. So yeah, I was just thinking about what comes to mind is when you go to India and you see these ancient buildings, how many days did it take to stack the brick, one man, each brick one by one, and how they developed amazing design and architecture. Comparing with what in the days we're living, we want things in a hurry. We want things now and there and then. We don't have the patience and the time to develop these strengths. So we need to look at what's good and bad and what is good to make you stronger and more effective and develop a higher level and taste in life.
Absolutely, Mataji. Absolutely. And my Guru Maharaj says something. He said, frame it or be framed. In the sense, you got to frame, you need to channel your desires, you got to plan. 2021 is coming. Take time to sit down, write some plan, your goals, what you did this year, and then write new goals for the next year, how you want to do it. And that's why I'm going to have a goal planning session with all of you. If that is okay with all of you, one day we can have a little goal planning session where we can write down some spiritual goals, including our book distribution goals. So we can do that exercise collectively. How does that sound like an idea? Please send me a message or a chat message so that I can see if you like the idea, and then we can do it in one of the session. We can have a nice, tomorrow, Gaurang Prabhu is, I think, giving a wonderful class about planning the goals. So we can also attend that through School of Bhakti. But if not, we will do one session as well, and we can reflect on that. I have one request to all of you before you go. I know many of your wonderful friends have sponsored the Gitas. Please invite them for these chat sessions. Send them the link and invite them and let them attend and let them read a chapter of Bhagavad Gita and be benefited, actually, because this is the best thing which can keep people going every day, an opportunity to come, read, hear, live, and distribute Bhagavad Gita. So please reach out to all your friends who have sponsored and just send them a link from the Sankirtan group. If it is not there, I can share the chat group. We have 2 groups, by the way, because one group got nearly full. So I can share the link from the second group. And in the new year, we may build a 3rd group as well, and invite many people. Why not? Let's all chat, read a chapter of Bhagavad-gita together, and together go back to the spiritual world by perfecting our life through this Bhagavad-gita. So on that note, I would like to take your leave to be able to meet you again next week. And in the meanwhile, I will be in touch with you all to update you on our marathon efforts. And thank you everybody for coming together and making such a memorable marathon for Srila Prabhupada. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhu vacha patita nam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.